Hello and welcome to Optimal Game Update. In my last video, we talked a little bit about Warcry, where it's going, and what we as players can do. And one of the things I was talking about was how maybe we should be looking at our own versions of Warcry and just thinking about what we can do with the system if GW were to abandon it. So I'm going to show you what I've done on that so far. This is my generic skirmish game, GSG. And basically, I'm just taking all the stuff I like from Warcry, filing off the serial numbers to a certain extent, and trying to dig into kind of the root core elements of it. So I'm making a lot of tweaks in this, but I'm trying to get into the root essence of it, so we're able to develop and design it. This first section on introduction is just, components, general principles, just kind of fluff stuff. I do like the idea of rosters. So a roster is something that you would pick your warband from. And this is more for the campaign mode. With current Warcry, the standard version is if you get more points open up in a campaign, then your warband gets bigger. I don't want that. I want a roster to get bigger, and then when you're going down sitting playing as an opponent, you're still going to be playing those 1,000 point games or something that's agreed. Because I do think points are an important balancing element that need to be. But having a roster means more options, and means if your fighters get injured or killed, you've got more backup and replacement. So I think there are a lot of good elements around having a roster. For fighters, almost identical, not much to see. I've taken away all the symbols. We do not have rune marks, where we'll be using some words, which will be traits. Movement is the same. Wounds is the same. Defense is replacing toughness, and we have incorporated the weapon strength into weapon skill and ballistic skill. Now, calling strength skill and calling toughness defense is kind of thematic. I always felt that the strength of a weapon tended to be the damage it did, and the toughness of a fighter tended to be the number of wounds they took. Whereas I felt strength and toughness were really modifying the values needed to hit and crit. So I think retuning that as skills makes a little bit more conceptual sense. It does mean, specifically for defense, that a highly skilled, agile elf, for example, it would make sense that their defense would be higher, which wouldn't necessarily be reflected in them being tough. Similarly, would you say they're super strong if they're very skilled? Maybe not. But so this is why that's a conceptual reason for that. Anyway, let's not worry about it too much. Let's move on. So the key part here is we have separated the core characteristics of a fighter from the details of a weapon. We're also have no rune marks, and if we have it written, if the beast trait is written in the trait section, then they have this the trait, this ability essentially. Let's get into abilities. We're also moving with a one-to-one. So every trait is an ability, every ability is a trait. We have the doubles, the triples, and quads. So nothing has changed there. That's all the exact same. So here's an example of the default leader trait or ability. It is a triple, and it basically lets you move two of your fighters that are next to your leader, basically, is the idea. So, yeah, it is what it is. There's no real change there. We are making a slight difference here with introduction of action and passive as ability costs. So if we go back up here, it is an activation cost. This is what you actually need to do to turn the ability on, as it were. Ooh, go back up. Spoilers. So right now we do have those already in the form of reactions. So reactions require an action to actually activate. And here we're just incorporating that into the wording. Similarly, as we saw earlier with the fly and the beast rune marks, those are essentially always on. So we have incorporated those into passive. So all I've done here is I've just kind of centralized everything into a kind of standardized way of displaying it. Now, one of the interesting side effects of that is we now can open up activation costs of double, triple, and quads for reactions. So here you can see the indication of it being a reaction is moved into the effect along with the timing, but we don't have to have it triggered off an action. We could actually have it as a passive, which means it's always available or always on. always available, I guess. And we could have it as a double, triple, or quad, or the normal action if that's appropriate. Here we got some of those passive ones, and I have changed some of the universal ones. I'm trying out some new variants. So rather than the normal onslaught that gives you that normally just gets used for multiple attacks. Instead, we have this one that can only be used after you've moved into melee range, and it gives you a +1 attack dice. So it's something that to kind of encourage. And because I've removed the limitation on stacking, that is a little bit more attractive than it might initially seem, because you are going to be able to stack it with other abilities. We've got Overwatch here, which is reaction, and basically after someone moves, you get to attack. So you can see in the wording, I am actually giving an extra cost of it being an action as well, but the reaction itself is a triple. Sprint is our normal, like the dash, what the phrasing of it is, and then we've got the kind of typical quad in here. You can move X and then you can take a free attack. So this is a little better than we have currently, but this one actually is allowing you to do range attacks, which I don't think the other one does. Anyway, we're going to try these out. This is all in testing. Nothing in here has been play tested. Nothing in here has been firmed up. I'm just looking at ideas and then trying to get an idea of what I want to do. Gear, we're starting off with weapons. So this is what a weapon profile looks. Range, attack, dice, and damage. We are also adding in traits. So traits are basically abilities. And we are specifically relating them to the weapon. So we are linking this reliable trait only works with weapons. So if you had a rifle and a knife, the silent is only going to apply with this weapon, with the knife, and the reliable is only going to apply with the rifle. They've got individual costs. Nothing really surprising. That's an example of some of the potential traits that you can get for them. And then general gear is essentially kind of turned into an ability. So a field ration gets you a couple of hit points or wounds back, and light armor basically gets you a +1 defense. Note here, I've got a different costing system. So it's costing 15 for the light armor, but it's 0.5 for the field rations. And the reason of this is I'm drawing a distinction between what it's costing to get on the roster. So as you work through your campaign, which we'll talk soon enough, you are going to get more points to spend. But for actual balancing within the warband, I've got it down as a 0 because we don't. It as an ability, it's balanced under the ability section. So we're drawing a distinction between boosts that are affecting the kind of main stats and would change kind of the points cost of the fighter versus anything that kind of falls under the ability range, because you only have so many ability dice. So it doesn't really matter too much how many different abilities we give you. Right, this is the game setup. Not much of a change. Yeah, just all the standard stuff. Again, you can see here I've got the same standard ability format when applying to terrain. So you can hear that's a swamp piece. Movement through it is halved. So it's just a way of formalizing how we write terrain rules. Victory conditions, so just some standard examples of victory conditions. I do think that we should be selecting, or the suggestion here, the proposal here is that we get the victory condition first, then we pick our fighters out of the roster. So that's what's happening here. And then we work out the deployment. So deployment and the twist are going to be the randomized parts. You're not really going to know. I've got a couple of sample deployments here. Obviously, we can generate more. And then we've got a couple of twists. For the twists, not entirely sure how to necessarily approach this long term, but for the moment, what we have here is a 2d6, which is the same way as Blood Bowl does as weather. And the reason we do that is because the ones that are kind of in the middle are more likely to turn up. So all clear, no twist in effect is going to be the most likely result to roll. And then as we go out, they kind of get a little bit more weird, with the ones at the very top and very bottom being kind of stranger ones. So this is a mission generator, so we have to recover some supplies. There's a map, and then there's that heavy fog. So everyone has a little bit of defense against ballistic skill attack actions. Okay, so that's the setup. So we're only getting into the game now. So game structure, same as normal. We've got our 4 mission rounds, and then we end the game. In the mission round, you got your initiative phase, where we are going to be rolling 8 dice. I'm going to try this out. In theory, it should be 33% better. We'll see how it works. We are going to let you split, so you're going to be able to use quads as 2 doubles. Although in the initiative phase, it doesn't immediately count. Then we move to deployment phase and combat phase, where most of the real work happens, and then the end phase, which is kind of just to tidy up. Again, we have the actions formalized into the kind of same standard default phrasing. I've added a stealth one, which I'm going to be testing. Kill team, obviously, at the start of a fighter's activation, you do get to choose whether they're active or not active, or concealed or non-concealed. I can't remember. But basically, whether they're in stealth or they're not in stealth. I'm going to try work on this with this particular idea, because I do like the idea of maybe having kind of stealthed like ninja assassins. So, for example, the new Skaven Rats would be perfect to have a bunch of stealth abilities. That could be a lot of fun. Move actions, same, no changes. Attack action, slight twist on this, slight difference. We've got some names. So matched is when you are exactly equal. Superior is when you're 1 above, and challenging is when you're 1 below. But we've also added in overwhelming, which is when you're 3 above, and desperate is when you're 3 below. So the reason we're doing this is because if you're attacking a toughness 2 fighter and you've got 3 strength, you've basically maxed out all of your strength. And every point you spend in Warcry on that strength after that is wasted, is inefficient. So there's a really kind of weird dynamic for point costing for strength of weapons and the toughness fighters. So obviously we're talking about skills versus defense in this, but we have that kind of same issue. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to give a buff if you've got really high skill, or if you've got really high defense. That's what's happening here. This is what it looks like down here. So there's your matched. So like the average human with with some light armor seems to be about 4 defense. So to actually get that extra bonus, you have to get up to the heady heights of 7. Now I did play around with the idea of, and I've encouraged and proposed multiple times over the last year that having a double would be good, and that was because Blood Bowl used it. But after looking at it, not so convinced, because I found it was really high to actually get to anything. So basically the 4 would have been at 8, and then you're off the table for anything that's got 5 toughness afterwards. So I think this is a nice compromise. It does increase the value of both the skill and the defense, and yeah, we'll see how that plays out. And then other actions are just wait action, and then any of the random stuff that's kind of floating around. Okay, campaigns. Now campaigns I think are pretty important. I think Warcry, while it had some nice concepts, I think it kind of fell apart a little bit. But I felt it was very, very close. It was very, very close to getting it right. So the campaign loop we're going to have is basically you select your fighters from your roster, you make your warband, you play your mission, and then you resolve your aftermath sequence. So aftermath sequence is resolve any injuries. Anyone that dies gets removed. Then you gain a bunch of points. And we are going to put some treasure tokens that you can pick up. That'll be 10 each. That's a little bit something. So at most, you're going to get 130. At worst, you're just going to get 50. Now, you might have lost a bunch of fighters, so 50 could actually be rough. We might evaluate this. We might look at it and see what we can do to change it. If you do get too low, you will be able to get in the equivalent of journeymen. So some temporary fighters to bring you back up, so it shouldn't be too bad. Injuries and death. This is the D66 table, very, very similar to what they have in Mordheim, but yeah, with penalties specific to these skills instead. Okay. And then we've got the advancement. So obviously you can buy more gear for your fighters. You can buy better weapons for them. You can buy more fighters. We've got 2 forms of advancement here. So we've got, I should probably switch that around. Characteristic boosts. So your weapon skill, ballistic skill, defense, all can be increased by 2, and your wounds can be increased by 8. Every time you do that, it is going to cost something. It's basically going to cost 20 points for each of the advancements. No, sorry. 10 for the first one's advancement, and then 20 for the second. And then for the wounds, they're each going to cost 20, and they're each giving you 4 points. The other way of doing it is getting talents. Now, these are what the talents are. These are a bunch of abilities in a bunch of different sections. So basically, we're just adding more abilities onto the fighters. And it's just going to cost a flat 20 to add that in. But, and here's the key point, if we add in extra abilities, we're not increasing any of their stats. And we're not increasing the number of abilities that get used each turn because you are capped by your ability dice. So what we're doing here is we're giving one cost for when you're fielding the fighters, and we're giving another cost when you're paying for it on the roster. So even though this fighter is going to cost 115 to put on a roster, it'll only cost those 75 points to get on the actual warband. You can get some weird stuff because of that, but I think it's a good way of balancing it and just kind of keeping it all together. Okay, then term definitions. I'm going to try write as many of things to kind of clarify things as we can, and then I'm explaining what I'm trying to do with it. So avoiding rerolls as best we can. I feel that's slowed the game down. We are making sure points are balanced, and we're making sure ability dice are balanced. So abilities are, we can add extra abilities, and we can charge that for roster points, but we're not going to charge that for warband points. And for warband points and roster points, we're going to make sure that any of the characteristic changes and the weapon damage are all factored. This is how I'm calculating it. So there is a starting with 4 points per wound. Then we pick each of these, add some points on. I did find that I need minus 10 at the end of it with a total minimum of 20. And then I've got a little bit of a generator here. So you can see here, that's the kind of standard fighter 38, although I'm pointing them at 40 just to round off. Similarly, weapons, we pick what kind of damage it is, then we work out what range it is, and then we multiply it by the number of attacks. So if we were going for a, let's say this profile is a assault rifle, maybe, gives that 4 dice, so you can see it's about 90 points. You can tweak the numbers. You can kind of adjust based on any traits that you're going to give your weapon, but this kind of gives me a quick guide on getting where I want to go. And then with ability design, I've got a idea of what it should be worth for kind of values. So that's the entire core rules. The idea is to make this usable across a bunch of different universes, as they're called. As I said, the Chaos Waste is the one I've got the most developed. And yeah, we've got fighters, they've got all their abilities. So basically this is the first set of warbands and all of their weapons. I tried to keep it as close to the current version of the game as possible, and all of the abilities. Obviously these are going to match that rather than being completely invented, but how they actually go is kind of interesting. So for example, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, so for example, the Iron Banner, let's do the Iron Banner. Iron Banner is treated as a piece of gear. So this is from the Iron Golems, this is from the Signifier. So if he has that big gong banner, then he gets this ability. And basically it's going to cost him 10 points to get that, which seemed to match how they've done it in the game. Another example might be I think there's a big Warhammer down here somewhere. Yeah, the Spine Crushing Maul, again from the Iron Golems. That opens up this one particular double that anytime anyone had this weapon, they always had this ability, so it made sense that they matched. And then we've got the same stat profiles. But obviously, a fighter with a greater weapon skill is going to be able to wield this a lot better than one with a low weapon skill. And then in the war gear, we also have all the lesser artifacts detailed. I've changed details as best I can to kind of match what my vision of it is, and I've given a bunch of points, which I'll probably have to change later. This is a roster builder. Here's our Corvus Cabal. So if we were to build what was kind of the standard roster, we'd have a Shadow Piercer as leader. We'd have the Shrike Talon, 2 Spire Stalkers. I think it's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. Yeah, maybe 4. And then we'll get a name here, name here, name here. Now, there is a slight difference with some of these. Okay, so out of the Cabalist, I think one of them I wanted to have daggers, but I also wanted them to have where is it? Not an ability. Oh. Oh, there it is. Yeah, Harrowing Raven. Just costs an extra 5. I could give them all Harrowing Ravens if we wanted, but I'm just going to try to reflect what we got in the box as it comes. So I think these both have a spear. Obviously, if you wanted to customize everything, like get a box, cut it up, you could then, give a sword and an axe or some sort of pole arm or a morning star. Like it's a little bit more like Necromunda at this point because we have the options. We can play around with things. Okay, and then let's put all of these into play. Okay, so it's the Shrike Talon. It's going to be in Group B. And then what we'll do is put the 2 Spire Stalkers in a group by themselves. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 Cabalists. Twin daggers, spear, spear. Okay, so we will put these in A, and then B and B. Okay, so now we've got, now notice here, we spent 1,035 points to actually generate this warband. Once we go in here, it's 935. So there is a bit of a difference. And that should be fine. I think a lot of it's probably down to the twin Corvus war picks, which are, because they're, and the reason we're doing this is because if it's a double weapon, you can actually buy it twice. But the points cost on it for anytime Warcry does double weapons, what they do is they take the standard profile and they add 1 dice onto it. But because it's a physical item and we wanted to, like, you could buy it once and then buy it anyway. Don't worry about it too much. It made sense to me. So we have a warband. We can then save it. We could load it up. This is a PDF version of it, so this way you can print off and oh, hold on, I should give us a name. Murder. And then PDF. So we can see here we've now got our groups. All the names are listed out here. Maybe I should be tidying that up, but it's the groupings are clear enough. You can kind of make out which ones have what abilities. I know there is a lot to reference, but all of the weapons are listed here, and then all the abilities are listed directly afterwards. And this includes, like some of the universal abilities, and they are alphabetized, so hopefully they'll be a little bit easier to get. Okay, then at the end of your battle, let's say all of your guys got massacred, you could roll an injury on each of them. Next mission, crack rib. Oof, okay, this could be problematic. Gut wound, flesh wounds. So flesh wounds are fine. They're going to get removed straight away. And a cracked rib. So, oh, and yeah, we can move them around. We can do all sorts of things. It's kind of fun. Okay, let's just return all of these back to the roster. And then, luckily, no one has died. This is good. Broken Arm has reduced the weapon skill slightly, which is a kicker. That's going to be painful, but what we might do is we might try to compensate that by giving an advancement. So out of the points we got, what we might do is we might increase the weapon skill by 1. So we're back up to that 4, and yeah, we think we're costing 5 more points because there's a -5 and a okay, and then this was going to miss next mission, so we can remember that. Head trauma. What's head trauma do? Cannot use abilities in the first round. I can only use 1 ability per round. Okay. Fair enough. Crack ribs. Can only take 1 move action per turn. Probably fine. Most of these are probably going to be grand. And we can now buy more fighters. We can add new things and we can get more weapons on it. And that's the idea. and that's everything I have right now. So it is all conceptual. It hasn't been play tested. It's just me having a look and seeing what I like about Warcry, what I like about the game, and then how would I translate that into a core set of rules, a core system, and then what can I do if I want to do something else with it and have a little bit more fun. Vulcan Flamer. So yeah, give me your thoughts. As I said, this is still a work in progress, so we're not going to be releasing it out or doing anything with it yet. Um, but it is something that I want to test myself, and I'll probably do it over the next 6 months. And if GW drop the ball and don't release anything, maybe this is something that people would be interested in. It is very much a divergence from current Warcry, and it's not intended to replace current Warcry. But I think the system is great, and I think if we can properly master the underlying elements, that it'll make a great game for any setting. So this is what I'm looking at. As I said, if you have any feedback or any thoughts, if you think something is really dumb and I shouldn't be doing it, please tell me. If you've got any suggestions of something that you think would be a good idea, also please tell me. I look forward to reading your comments, and have a wonderful week.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.